see if this will let me go to the next slide. So, quick introduction. My name is Marcello. I've known most of my distributors now in the Northeast for a little bit, but I'm now the gas distribution national sales manager. So I've got a chance to meet a lot of new faces like you, Adam, a couple other people in the past few weeks here. So just really quick, the whole reason why we're here today, the whole reason why we exist as a company is customers like you basically say, hey, we have problems. There's different things in the market that don't meet my needs, and I need something that actually can meet my needs. So that way I can deliver on my promise to obviously serve your customers. So as a company, something I really like about Pulse is we're very, very feedback driven. Everything that we do, we don't just make it to make it, or we don't just say something without being able to deliver that. So the products that we make, both hardware and software, are based off of that feedback. So that's really why we're here today. So I want to share with you some updates we have. We appreciate everyone's attention and everyone's feedback in the past couple of years for us to build what we have now. So I'll just kind of roll into it. So in light of that feedback, a lot of our customers and Adam and other people have said before, I really like the DP solution, especially for my BEV carb tanks with Pulsa. That's something that's unique about Pulsa that our competitors can't do, to have a sensor, have a solution that's small enough that could work on a BEV carb tank. And some of the feedback we've gotten is like, you know what, my guys are tied up. Sometimes the plumbing's not done right. We have to go back. It'd be really nice if I could have Pulsa pre-installed from the factory. So in this case, we now have pulse rate sensors that can be factory installed from Chart. It's a phenomenal deal in terms of Chart. I'm not sure where they get their prices on fittings or anything like that. But if we look at it, if we're doing just level sensors, it's only $99. And again, we're talking about stainless steel fittings. We're talking about having it be leak check, tubing, installation, everything good to go. And then if you want to do level and pressure, which is something that a lot of customers have said, I really like that about Pulsa. The other solutions in the marketplace right now, they require me to buy another sensor. They require me to, go off of that. And if that is faulty, then I have issues. And then likewise, I have no good way of doing both level and pressure. So in this case, if you do a level sensor and a headspace pressure sensor, it's only $148 all included. Again, it's just another thing that we worked out to make it easier on our customers, and basically it's a plug and play solution. So that's something that we've worked on for the past couple months here. We have that in place. A lot of customers are taking advantage of it, but I am surprised that still I get calls like, oh wait, you can do that? I had no idea. So again, if you were aware of that, just a reminder, and if you weren't aware of it, it's a great opportunity. You can message me for details about it, but it's a very simple process. How you place the PO with Chart, how you place the PO with us, and then basically we align everything. Your sensors are sent to Chart, they're factory installed, we send you the gateway, plug in the gateway, and then everything's done, good to go. So another big update. I know some of you guys have already had our one-on-ones, had Jasmine kind of lead that. And again, this is something too that since I've started at Pulsa, customers have asked for, hey, there's a lot of data there. It's on a sensor level. There's a lot that I can digest. But again, it's a lot that I actually can digest. If there was a way that I can see multiple sensors, see multiple data points, and really improve my operations, I would love to be able to do that. And again, this is something that we didn't want to just say like, yes, we have reporting, or yes, we have reports. We wanted to have something that our customers can use. They can have, meaningful decisions based off the data right here. And also just being able to tell on the fly how we're doing, benchmark that, and then be able to make improvements moving forward. And as good as this is right now in terms of reporting, this is basically the first iteration. There's going to be a lot more things that we're going to roll into it. But feedback I've gotten from customers is that this has been a great tool to help spot a leak. So if I can look at, hey, I have these 7 tanks here. This one's using way more than expected. And I know that this customer does not really use that much CO2. So something's going on. Or being able to spot inefficiencies in deliveries. Hey, we're delivering every single week. There's 3-4 weeks left every single time we deliver. We can stretch this out. So again, making it easier than versus just relying on historical data just off of your own system. Now we can have things in real time and not just guess, hey, are we actually efficient? And again, people like you, Adam, that dive into the system, that use it, that's really, really helpful. Because like when we have our best customers, they're like you, where they're like, we want to use the data, we want to be efficient with that. We don't want to necessarily have just a sensor and just say telemetry for the sake of telemetry. We want to have things that we can actually use. So if you have not had a personalized demo, message Jasmine. She's our customer success manager. She's way better at this than me, like by like tenfold. And if you want a refresher, same thing. She'll be able to help you out. She's a rock star. So if you check out the desktop right now, you click on the left-hand side, we have reports. If you just want to dive into that, play around with that a little bit. So currently on the desktop, we have rolled out reports. And I'm sure why everyone is here today. A new product, which again, really exciting thing about Pulsa. I come from an industry where, somebody asks you what's new and you got to wait like 6 or 7 years before you can look at them square in the face and tell me you have something new. This is something that we've been working on for a while now, again, based off of customer feedback, something that is easier to say that, yes, I can make this, yes, I can deliver this, than versus actually delivering it. And again, this is based off of a lot of feedback. And this is basically an all-in-one unit. This is the Pulsa Frontier. So this is a solution for when there's no power. This is battery powered, GPS, has a lot of capability built into it. And this is going to give you a lot more flexibility. But before I kind of dive into some of these nuts and bolts, I'm sure people are going to have questions about that. Dave, can you speak to, one, why we actually built this, why we actually made this, and two, what were like the challenges to make something that actually works versus just saying I can build this? Can you kind of dive into the why we built this and then kind of go into the challenges to make something that can actually deliver on the promises here?
Yeah, sure. So when we started the company, we looked at who the competitors were and how the telemetry devices work. And almost all of them, pretty much all of them, they were a device that had a battery and a cellular modem, and they could take a couple sensor measurements. And we said, we think there's a better way to do this. And we built our gateway system where we had the sensors and the cellular modem separated. That allows us to get very understandable battery life on our sensors. Caveat, we did make a mistake on the battery that we chose for the V1, so we messed that up. But you could get very high fidelity measurements. And because the cellular modem was connected to the power, you could just brute force power, which is probably the best method of connecting to cellular networks. And so that's what we built. And we're now in tens of thousands of locations. But what we kept hearing from customers was, well, there's places where I don't have power and I don't want to spend the money for a solar kit. Or this is a mobile use case. And it just continued to come up. And so, while a hub and spoke system, the gateway sensor system was our religion to begin with, we're also, very open to changing our stance on the market. And I'd say the industrial gas market is very complex. We've learned a lot. It's a very difficult market to build a product for, because you essentially have to build something that can go anywhere in the world, in any environment, be set up incorrectly, but then still stay connected, ideally forever, and give you measurements. And so this was a result of constant customer feedback of, I use Pulsa for everything where I have power, but where I don't have power, I have to go to a competitor. And so that we've been working on this for over a year. And if we were going to make this product, we wanted to make it so we could still promise a much higher level of service, and we could solve the battery problem. And so I'd say the two things that are unique about this and really differentiates it from one of our competitors is we've put all of the configuration of this into the Pulsa dashboard. And so that means that you can power 2 sensors off this device, and each port can be 5 different types of sensors. You can have a 0 to 5 volt, 5 volt input, 0 to 5 volt, 15 volt power input, 4 to 20 milliamp. You can have passive versions, and all of that is set in the dashboard. And so you don't have to tell us what type of device you're going to connect it to. You can set that all in the dashboard. And so we've abstracted all of the configuration to the cloud, which means it's very easy to update remotely if you want to change a sensor or troubleshoot it. And so that's one thing. There was a ton of work that went into that in terms of being able to build firmware that can work with any sensor, but we don't know what that sensor is going to be. And then the other thing that we've done is we've put a lot of work into understanding what the battery life is. And all other devices, including us on our hub and spoke system, we use the voltage of the battery, which is basically just a binary indicator. Once you drop below 50% of the expected voltage, you've got a low battery and you need to replace it. With this, we put basically a gauge in there that counts the amount of current coming out of the battery. And then we're building this whole battery map on our server where every measurement we take a temperature reading, and we take a battery measurement. And over time, we'll be able to build this map to show how every single device behaves in a certain environment. And we'll be able to give a much more clear information on like how much battery life you have left, how much you've used, and that'll come into play on some of the features that Marcello will talk about, as you're able to change all the settings on the device kind of at any time during setup or in the future. And so this is our solution to, I can't use Pulsa, or it would be better for a mobile asset, or I don't want to buy the solar kit. This is our solution to that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And again, just thinking about, where this device is useful, and if we think about like what other places this kind of opens up, like these were already hard customers to service. Say if we look at a remote area, cold area, anything like that, and current solutions in the market, we're not able to deliver on a promise of any kind of appreciable battery life, being able to get any kind of cell service in a challenge area. So there's definitely a lot that actually goes into it, and Dave highlighted a little bit about the mobile aspect of that. So a couple highlights about this product. So one, it's battery powered. The battery is interchangeable. This is going to have industry leading battery life. So if we look at this was something that's not easy to do. If you look at industry standard, Dave's exactly right. You'll see what the voltage is, and it might tell you it's okay, and it gives a reading and it doesn't, and you just see this is the voltage was X, but you don't get a reading. So again, that doesn't mean anything to our customers. They need to know, what is my tank? What is my level now? What's going on with the sensor if there is a problem? And we put a lot of effort to making sure that again, that we could do something that can offer appreciable battery life, have the ability to really be, one of 5 different sensors, and also support GPS. So this adds a lot more flexibility, a lot more utility. There's already a buttload of places where you could have used Pulsa before. This really closes the gap in those areas where you could not use Pulsa before, or where you could, but maybe this makes it a little bit more economical to do it. So feedback wise, again, this is based off of what our customers needed. And again, really wanted to deliver something that would have appreciable battery life, something that you can plug it in, it could work, not have to deal with, the calls and dealing with that, or going out in the field and having to have maybe 3 or 4 different types of sensors just to solve one problem. So this is a great solution. It's going to be really versatile in the field. So we're really looking forward to hearing how our customers use it. And again, to give you ideas in terms of, where we can use it, and again, common use cases. So as part of this system, we're going to have a Pulsa Frontier DP. So again, the same thing that our customers want. Hey, I want to be able to monitor level and pressure. I want to be able to do that, without having to have this kind of crazy setup or drill a hole into a back of a wick or anything like that. You'll be able to have a good solution out of the box with our own first-party sensors. In addition, this can also connect to pretty much universally any third-party sensor that has a 4 to 20 or 0 to 5. And a key distinction here is that you do not need to have now a different link. You don't need to have a different Frontier depending on the device that you're connected to. So again, whether this is an legacy telemetry box, whether this is a Level Eye, a Rotorex, a Wicca, you have more solutions here that you can use this. And again, we're only just scratching the surface in terms of devices that we will connect this to. We'll include obviously custom connectors. So again, just make it very simple, plug and play, no splicing, no wiring. Basically everything is going to be done for you. And again, the setup process that you're used to with Pulsa, again, very quick, a very easy setup. You'll be able to have that with the Frontier link as well. So again, these will be available. We're hoping to have this available within the next few weeks here. So you guys are getting the first glance at this product before anybody else. We will have this at GAWDA. So if you guys are heading out to GAWDA there, like again, I look forward to showing you guys this in person and again up and close. And yeah, so more information on this, if you go to pulsasensors.com/platform right now, we have information on, how is this different than the gateway system, a comparison chart, FAQs, data sheets, all kinds of things. But again, if we look at the product itself, this is a battery powered unit, all-in-one, onboard GPS, can take readings from universally 2 sensors and even 2 completely disparate sensors. That means that I can have a 0 to 5 on one, a 4 to 20 on another. I can monitor 2 passive devices. There's just so much more possibility you have now with this device out of the box. And again, this helps close the gap and kind of helps fill some holes where you were not able to use Pulsa. So again, our customers say, look, the goal is, and some customers that are on this today said, I want to put Pulsa on everything. And this is just another product. This is another way to do that. And it really helps. It really helps close that gap. So again, if you want to order some, again, if you guys want to try some out, whatever, if you guys want to deploy them out in the field, send me an email, give me a call. I'll be at GAWDA at booth 619. So again, obviously stop by. I get very lonely by myself. Dave yells at me whenever I'm by myself. He always needs me in front of customers. So if you guys can swing by, I definitely appreciate it. And with that, let me open it up to questions. So obviously you guys are the first to hear about it. What kind of questions, what kind of things do you want to know about the Frontier link based off of that quick overview?
What's the battery life?
Very good question. So with normal settings, we can expect in some situations 20+ years of battery life. So Dave can speak a little bit more to the level of testing that we did to make that work. But there's a lot that goes into it. The cold, cell connectivity, how often you're pinging GPS, all those things. So Dave, in terms of what we want to deliver just with out of the box settings, can you speak a little bit more about the battery life?
Yeah, so I'm actually writing I don't know if you call it a blog post, a white paper about battery life and why it's such a difficult thing to communicate.
Yep.
But the way I think about it is like a 2x2 matrix. You have a sensor that uses a low amount of power, a sensor that uses a higher amount of power, and then you're in a good cellular network area and you're in a bad cellular network area. And then you multiply that by a temperature moderator or modifier. And so, I'll post this article that will talk about which sensors use more and less power. Really, the only sensor that is problematic from a power perspective is the level eye. I've talked to Elliot at Celltech. They are planning to come out with a newer one that uses less power. But if you're with any of the other sensors, they're relatively fine. But the difference between good cell network, bad cell network, high power sensor, low power sensor, there can be a 10x difference in power. And so our default settings we'll take measurements every 10 minutes and we'll upload them every 6 to 12 hours. We'll give you the control in the dashboard where you will be able to go in and say, you know what, I want uploads every 1 hour. So that means you would get measurements every 10 minutes. You'd get 6 measurements and they'd be uploaded to the dashboard every hour. And then we should be able to give you feedback on if you do this is what you would expect your new battery life to be. So the default settings, which would be one reading every 10 minutes and uploading every 6 to 12 hours, you should get a 10+ year battery life. We'll have power saving mode. So if you want to dial that back, the first thing we'd say is we're only going to upload measurements once a day. And so the battery life really depends on, the frequency of measurements, the frequency of uploads, the frequency of GPS, and then that 2x2 matrix modified by temperature. And so our goal here is that at the default settings, now there's a caveat for the level eye because it uses so much power currently. But default settings with any other sensor, you should be at 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And what I will say is we've got the largest battery. That is expensive, but we have the largest battery with a capacitor of any competitor. And so we also should have just more gas in the tank. But then you will have that real-time feedback that's coming back and saying, you know, you're using more power than we are expecting. You must be in a bad cell zone, or you might be using a sensor that uses a higher amount of power. And then we'll make suggestions and basically give you the knob to turn it and say, okay, I want to back this off and I want to extend my battery life out. And so, you know, no device manufacturer can tell you this is exactly what the battery life will be, but we'll be able to provide you a lot more context into how the device is operating and give you the control to modify it. And then as we learn more and more, you know, it's possible that we can come out with an automatic adjustment. That'll be probably a couple years in the future once we have the, you know, the battery consumption data map on our server, and we can really understand how these devices perform in all environments. But that's kind of the abridged version of battery life and why it is so complicated to give a an actual number. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I'm not going to obviously hold you to it. I think I'm reasonable in the fact that cell phones, if you're searching for service all the time, they die really quickly. And if they're able to be read right out the gate, that's fine. Another question, just to confirm, Gateway versus Frontier. The Frontier is only able to deal with the differential pressure and the pressure sensors, the Frontier version, none of the other stuff, right?
So if we're talking about someone else's third-party sensor, if it has a 4 to 20, doesn't matter what it is, we can connect to it, or if we have something that's actually a 0 to 5. So a level I, legacy telemetry devices, a C-stick, a Wicca, we can connect to those sensors. So if we're able to get an output, if it outputs something 0 to 5 or 4 to 20, we can get the readings off of that. But we're manufacturing our own first-party sensors to work with that. Again, same thing, optimize the same quality you would expect. Again, we can always speak to exactly what we were talking about the other day, Adam. When we're dealing with, you know, two basically disparate manufacturers, you have different things you want to troubleshoot. So we wanted to make sure that we controlled that. So if there is a differential pressure that is going to tie to it, you know, you can do that for a brand new install and not have to worry about, hey, I got to buy someone else's DP to work with Pulsa. So you know it's going to work. You know, you have the same, you know, level of service, the quality, and the same, you know, warranty with those sensors.
Yeah, no, and I was just thinking more, and the reason I confirmed that was, you know, you guys have some other great products that, I mean, that can hook up to the gateway, of course, not a big deal, but we do deal with a lot of places that don't have accessible power very easily. They're warehouses, they suck, or they're, you know, manifold rooms at hospitals and whatnot. So they don't like power in their oxygen enriched environment if something happens. So that's why I asked that question.
Yep. So in this, then the only appreciable battery would be the battery in the Frontier Link itself. So we can wire 2 pressure sensors in the manifold exactly like that. So if you have a situation, you don't want to offer power and we don't have solar, you can totally do that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, there's solutions. Yeah, just preemptively answering questions that I think my boss will ask me. So because he couldn't make it. So
sure.
Yeah.
Well, and the gateway system is still the flagship system that's going to give you the highest fidelity measurements. I'd say if you have power to location, that's still the one we will recommend. But obviously it's up to every distributor to determine what fits best at every location for them. And so we see this as just another option, you know, where it's not we don't have a preference. I mean, I think just the number of ways we can measure CO2 now, I think is 10 different ways, you know, with 5 different sensor types or more than that. And so we're saying we're providing all the options based on the problems that our customers say they have. And so this is just another option to give you, you know, more ammunition to solve your problems.
No, yeah, and that's where I was going with that, guys, is to find a singular solution rather than an additional solution, which I think I'm fine with both. Yeah, definitely no issues there. I was just curious if my boss said, well, why don't we use these for everybody? So we're only using one, and then we don't have to deal with all this stuff. And then that's the answer. So that's where I was kind of going with it.
Well, that certainly would have made the industrial gas market a lot easier to launch products in. You know, if like the propane market is beautiful, it's like every tank has the same type of dial gauge. Unfortunately, the industrial gas market is just, there's just so many different types of tanks and behaviors and space constraints.
And then on this one, I mean, you guys talk about GPS. Is it just one way communicating, or is there a way to communicate to the frontier from the dash? Like for instance, I guess my wish, if I had one wish after dealing with all the issues, if I could say, send a communication to a gateway to say, can you restart for me, please? That would be like my favorite thing in the whole wide world, because then I wouldn't have to send my text out to unplug and plug in gateways like I have been.
So the nice thing about the system is, again, because it's actually self-contained. So in a way that it's always listening, that would, and Dave could speak to that, that would obviously affect it if it's always two-way. You can dial that in though and change in when the frequency is. So if you want to do like a troubleshooting mode where we want to change this from reporting every 12 hours, 6 hours, whatever, and we want to change how quickly it does it, you can do that with that. But to ping it real time in the moment, that basically would, for me to just ping it and have it ready and listening, it would have to always be listening. And Dave, could you speak a little bit more? Am I wrong?
Yeah, so I think, Adam, I think that the answer to the question is yes, you'll be able to talk to it. The frequency at which you set it to connect to cell and upload measurements, that'll be the frequency that you can change the settings on it. The reason that gateways will go down and you'll have to go and unplug them is either it's a bad power supply, or you have a spike in power and it burns up the polyfuse. The polyfuses, sometimes they will, not sometimes, they will always regenerate, but sometimes based on the voltage and how clean the power supply is at the location, it won't feel safe to regenerate, so it won't. That's a variable that will be completely removed from the equation with this, because we'll have our own power supply. And so if you can connect to cell and there is capacity in the battery, you should be able to talk to the thing and you should be able to get readings from it regularly.
Okay. And does cell phone coverage affect it dropping and whatnot? Obviously, I'm in Montana. I have one sensor that loves to go offline all the time, which every time my logistic guy needs to ask to get it filled, I have to manually get it and then ask the guy to reset it, which happened this morning. But he's on a highland where cell phone service sucks. It's on a solar panel, which would make it fairly clean power, correct?
Yeah.
So again, does cell phone service affect that?
So when you're saying this is going offline, is it going offline for a long period of time?
For a long period.
Yeah. I'd say this device should behave better. We spent a lot of time on the antenna design with the cellular modem manufacturer. On the gateway, we didn't. We use kind of a patch antenna that we stick to the front of the gateway. In hindsight, it's not the most efficient antenna, but since we have so much power, it's rarely ever a problem. And so I am interested in that site. There might be something else going on. But this device, if you can connect to cell, it should be able to reliably connect to cell, and it shouldn't be in that in-between state where sometimes it can, sometimes it can't.
And I can share that afterwards. Again, I'm just looking for solutions. Because we do have a handful of them that like to pop off, go back on, pop up into the power side of it, that you're telling me is the most common thing, which is super common, of course, that power can be an issue, that this Frontier can be a solution for that. And then yeah, this other one. So I can definitely keep that in the back part of my head.
The other thing to consider that's different about this solution versus, again, each one has like its own, pro and con. In the event that the Frontier link was not reporting or was not able to do it, it has a memory. It has a log of all the previous readings, and it'll send that. The current model right now, hub and spoke, if that sensor is broadcasting and we don't have power to the gateway for 5 hours, we don't have that fidelity in between. Now we're able to go back and fill in those gaps. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, so we've tested up to a month worth of data where we take the device and put it in a like a
Super
big
dungeon.
Faraday cage where it can't connect to cell. And we see that, yeah, once the device does connect, it uploaded, you know, what is that? 6 measurements times 24 hours a day times 30 days. I don't know what that number is, but it was thousands of measurements, and we retained all of them. And so it does have device memory of thousands of measurements. Again, I should know the exact number, but I don't. But yes, it has memory on it.
Okay. Cool. Price points. You guys ready to share the price points? I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, you guys probably have price points for everybody, but will you be able to share that with me either via email or public? I don't know. Again,
No, yeah, we have that available. We put a lot of thought into that. You know, again, and what would be an appreciable price point, especially considering all that it can do and the cost of a similar solution with the solar. So it's under 300. Actually, it's under 240. So basically, it's the cost of a gateway and a link put together, but it actually has more functionality than both of those things combined. Because we think about it, this is the capability of 2 links and a gateway. So basically, you'd be looking at 239 Frontier link out of the box. And then we would have, you know, connectors, and then all that good stuff. And then we have different price points for our, you know, also Frontier DP and also our Frontier pressure sensor. So price wise, though, it would be more economical than an actual solar unit by a lot. And then likewise, you know, we're looking to keep the pricing of the Frontier DP and the Frontier pressure sensor to be about the same. We're not looking to, you know, charge more for this.
Yeah, and Adam, do you guys do much propane monitoring?
we don't do it at all. We're not a heavy propane company. Well, we do the small bottles for barbecuers and forklifts and whatnot, but we don't have the big old tanks. We're not a propane distributor.
Got it.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's a ton of things we didn't talk about, but there's a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes. We've been working on this project for over a year, and we've had, you know, like world-class firmware people working on it, software people, design, and so we've really put a lot of thought into how to blend the seams between the software and the hardware, and then give you all the control and give you what feels like very high fidelity measurements, but then still be able to achieve a very long battery life. And so I think once you start using it, hopefully those things will come out and you'll be able to get the best of both worlds in terms of high fidelity measurements without dependence on power. And then one thing Marcello didn't say was, I think we're going to come out and basically guarantee at the time of price, at the time of sale, what a replacement battery would cost. So, you know, hopefully in 7 to 10 years, you know, if you change the settings, maybe a little less, you know, you'll be locked into the battery price, and it should be under $40. And so we're really trying to keep that, you know, when you do have to replace the battery, one thing that is unique about ours is you can do it in the field, but then also not get sticker shock, you know, when you have to replace the battery.
Well, shit, 7 years from now, batteries are going to be more expensive. I wouldn't hold it for that.
Well, we know that this is a problem in the market and for us, you know, we think of that as an enabler. We're not trying to make a lot of money on the batteries. We want just our customers to be happy.
Yeah. So, I don't have any other side. I'm the one asking questions. I do not have any more questions. I guess I do have more. Did you guys? I assume you guys field tested this, correct?
Yep. Yeah, you guys have one of the devices as well.
Oh,
so yeah, we've had devices out.
Thanks, Sean Kelly, for telling me this.
Well, it's just a box. It doesn't look like what we showed you, and you can't see it on the dashboard. It's just for our own internal testing to see how much power the thing is using. Okay. But yeah, we've had those out in the field since like late June, early July. Okay. And we're constantly collecting battery usage information. And then we've done a ton of testing internally, and we've got, you know, temperature chambers, and other things that we use to stress it.
Okay. So you tested it in our wonderful weather in Montana where it's nice and
Yeah, and we've got a temperature change that I think goes down to it's like -27, which I know you guys can get below.
Yeah, no, we're that's pretty good.
And then we've also gone through and like thoroughly tested the amount of power that every sensor type uses, and confirm that our device is, using the amount of power that we've calculated, based on our estimates as our goals beforehand. So we're really putting a lot of effort into testing this so that ideally we will under promise and over deliver on battery life.
Yeah, and that's something in the field I've seen where, they're like, "Oh, do you work with this device?" And it's like, "Yes, we can." "Oh, well, how can you do that? Because I tried with competitor brand X, I wasn't able to do it." So there's definitely a lot that goes into it, and that definitely is a decent variable. But getting any kind of appreciable battery life, even with those high drain devices, and being able to do that and have a battery that lasts even 5 years is still 2-3x what my customers are telling me what they're seeing in the field from our competitors.
What do you guys at Pulse GAWDA again?
What was that, Adam?
619.
619.
Wait,
I'm
go ahead.
not.
I appreciate it. Yeah, if you guys can swing by, Lucas, I see you're able to hop on. Does it say, yeah, 619.
Okay. Cool.
I'll
Yeah,
be
I'm just sharing that with John and the owners of the company, of course. So
Love it. Love it. So, Lucas, you hopped on a little bit late, so I'll go back just for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries. So we just launched a brand new product. So this is our Pulsa Frontier. So basically, this is a self-contained battery-powered device. This will work on mobile assets. This has onboard GPS, weatherproof, all that good stuff, and has the ability to connect to not only our first-party Pulsa sensors, it can connect to any third-party sensor that has a 0 to 5 or 4 to 20 milliamp out. So if we have areas that were challenging with power, mobile dewars, if we look at ISO containers, things like that, we have a lot more flexibility in terms of things that we can now do with Pulsa. So there really are very, very few and far between places where you can't use Pulsa now. So basically, it's a self-contained unit. We've had a feedback to do that for a while, and we didn't want to do what industry standard does and say, yes, I can make something, and then have something that a battery life doesn't last more than a year and a half, or you not having readings that you can rely on, or not having, the actual data off of it. And you're a good example where you're like, hey, I've tried some other solutions and it didn't meet my needs, and I wanted to make sure that it would work. I want to make sure, I think when we first talked, you talked about innovating and making the software work too. And this is everything in tandem, which is not an easy thing to do. So this is just another solution to help you out. So other things, I know you're mostly doing cylinder business, but if you have Carbomax carbomizers, if you do get into that, Lucas, Chart will actually factory install Pulsa. So then you can have the DP, the headspace pressure ready to go. Did you talk to Jasmine about reporting yet? Did you have a walkthrough of that yet?
Yeah, we've been through that there. So what's the launch date for Frontier? When can we get it in hand?
Dave, next month?
Yeah, I'd say early November. We're trying for late October, but it'll probably be early November.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. So when they're ready to go, just let me know and we'll get some brought in.
Love it. Love it. Cool. Are you heading out to GAWDA or no?
No, we're not part of GAWDA, unfortunately.
Okay. No worries. No worries. Awesome. If that's it, if you guys want to ping me offline, you guys obviously have my number. You guys can reach out to me anytime. And yeah, we'll obviously wrap it up.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for joining.
Adam. Thanks for joining. Catch you guys later.
Thank you.
Bye.